good morning. Good morning if you just showed up to my YouTube channel or you're showing up later on. So far we have 0 viewers and 0 thumbs up, but we're only 16 seconds in. Are the viewers really a sign of success, though? Which is a whole nother question. Some people believe that there's some psychic highway out there. Everybody hears everybody whether they want to or not. So it's just a matter of like where and how they're hearing you. I gotta roll another joint. My joint just tragically. You wanna see? It's gonna look like. I'm sure you've all had this happen. You see how the little piece right there? Connected. Like, am I ever? This is just like a smoke offering now. I'm like, what am I gonna do with that? What are these, you may ask? These are special decals. Put one on your face. Just kidding. Okay, so. Oh no, there's some things over here. Don't look at my grass. The plastic grass needs a little cleansing. So humans weren't meant to be parents. Let's start with men. So put dog ski. I feel like taking my chair outside, but all I really have to do is walk over to the other chair. Oh my god. This is a fucking walking thing. It's fine. I'm crazy. You're crazy. We're all crazy. Ha 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 ha. If you just joined us, I see you there, one person. The topic of the morning is why humans? Does anybody else ever roll their joints, just on a side note, into like a cohesive, like you use the previous joint, either put it on the front end and get the resin right away, or you can make a temporary filter out of it, put it on the back, don't even intend to smoke it, stop once you get to it, and resin up into it so that later you take it over here, you plop it on the front end. Am I the only one who does that shit? Let me know in the comments section. I think of the Bradley Noel song. Is one of you gonna call 911? Spoil all of my fun. You crazy fools. It was a song about marijuana. Are you gonna call 911? Get such a kick out of it now. The topic of the morning is, are humans just not equipped to be parents? I went to the barber shop to get a haircut the other day. I was trying to go for a short one, so I wasn't really that worried, and it got transformed into mohawk, and a barbershop guy can give a mohawk to a woman as easy as he can to a man. I mean, what's the difference? So anyways, that was a little while back, but when I was in there a few months ago, this is the barber shop in Yucca Valley, California, the one that's in the same parking lot as the Vons. And there's this, like, I won't say he's fat, he's a little rotund, and he's got like a round face, and he looks really happy. And when you walk in, he's dressed kind of sporty. He's like the guy on the left, about third back. And he's so friendly that even if he did give you a bad haircut, you'd probably lie about it. That you'd be tempted to. You'd have to watch yourself. He's in pretty good spirits. But one thing I noticed about him, though, that cracked me up, that I still do this now. I took it from him, and now I do it myself. Here, hold on. This thing he would say. There it is. Does it look like your schlock? No, it does. Don't compare it to a man's privates. That's inappropriate, self. So anyways, so he goes, I hope there's no children watching. So he goes, every time we talk about something, or something would come up, or he'd bring up, he said something like, my kid's da 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 da, but he would stop himself and he'd say, I'm a kid. Like right off the bat, you know. And I was like, you know, it's true. They say like you can't even get anywhere in therapy unless you have an inner child and you're able to get in touch with it. Not like a fucking spoiled piece of shit that just, it's all my way, but like an actual child. Not that they're not like that, but like, yes, people know what I'm talking about. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, no matter who it was, whether it was a child in his family, a child we talked about when there was being done, he would throw it in there real quick. He'd say, I'm a child. Don't be like pretending that they're the kids and I'm not. And it really stuck with me. And I was like, you're right. And I would rather be a child than fucking passing that off onto my kids or some other fucking kids. And I started thinking about it too, and I was like, who in the world, like, if everybody has an inner child, then even a child who tried to act like you didn't have an inner child would then become suspect of having been born as a non-child. Like, you know how there's deer and then there's near deer? The mythical creature in the forest. Go look up pictures of near deer on the internet. What if there's children and near children? And the way you scare near children is you give them a threat like Santa Claus, but a little different. It's a little more Krampusy, perhaps. Which is, if you don't think that I have an inner child, no matter what my age, then you were never a child from the day you were born. So you better straighten out your attitude. And if you, and any child that would say, oh, my inner child's more important than yours, you're not allowed to have one, was never born a child. You must be a near child. See, now I never say this out loud to children, but in my head I do. And I tell them in the grocery store, some of them, they try to act like any adult they pass. You're just an adult. You're not a child. And I'll go, if you think that about any adult, psychically, then you're just a near child. You may have tricked your parents, but you didn't trick me. I know. Ignored the fact that my pool has much need of being filled with water and getting reflated. It's actually a jacuzzi. So, anyways, long story. We'll be back in. I'll probably get that pool back in shape again real soon. So yes, I'm a child. Now, a child that would want to be raised by someone who had to give up their inner child in order to raise them would be considered a near child. I started thinking about it, and I was like, I watched this YouTube video, and the YouTube host was saying, like, how many things did your parent have to change about their lifestyle when you were born? And that you can tell who the piece of shit is in a relationship, because in a healthy relationship, both people get approximately an equivalent amount of love, care, and respect, right? And yes, there is a scale, and I'm watching every fucking grain, fuckface. So anyways, of course there's a scale. They tell you that psychologists say, like, watch a relationship, and no matter who the person who runs to you and tells you, like, I'm married to a narcissist, be the narcissist. because often they might run first, but just watch them and see who gets more respect, who gets paid attention to more, whose needs get attended to more often. Now, apply this next logic. When a child is born, you should see a corresponding inconvenience on both parents. If there is not a corresponding inconvenience on both parents, and only to a certain degree, because if the child wants them to stop being children altogether, then that child is a near child, in my opinion. Back in the old days, they'd call him a changeling and throw him in the fireplace, but you can't do that now because you'll get in big trouble. All right, so I'm not recommending it. So you have to look at what are you modeling to the child, because they're watching what you're modeling more than anything, right? So both parents should be equally displaced, but not to the extent that they put their own inner child at jeopardy. Because otherwise you're teaching your child bad example. What generation of humans? We are the children. What is this? I believe in the children are the future. No, we are the children. If any children that would want you to put that off on them and pretend that you're not a child are not children, they're near children. And if that's their vision, there's no children ever coming. We are the children. And your children are not more children than you. And if they think that they are, or you think that they are, someone's manipulating someone, and they're near children. And it's a good thing, that we don't live a couple hundred years ago and you don't have a convenient fireplace. We all respected my mom. She never gave up her career. Not only did she not give up her career when she had children, for good or for bad, she left home and lived at the college half the week. She'd come home the other half. My parents I don't even think they were doing it anymore back. There was a point where I don't even know if they were doing it, but they were trying to keep I don't know if I want to say united front, but like they could make agreements with each other. Meaning that like if Yvonne wanted to go to college full time, she could go pack it in 3.5 days out in like San Diego or wherever she went. And my dad he had worked in the business, and he would just work his ass off back at home with keep the kids, and she'd come back the other half of the week. Well, she got pregnant, didn't she? That's a huge fucking inconvenience. Your brain, like, for 3 years prunes the neurosynapses that go to your frontal lobe and make you into a person who could be like really re-traumatized and basically can't really fully function. So by the time her last child she'd gotten pregnant like 9 times. So by the time and had several miscarriages and a little stillborn, there's only 4 of us. So basically after that last one, when a couple of years went by, she went back to college, and not even a couple of years, she went immediately back to college after the last kid. And that was the deal. You got to look at it in the inconvenience scale. How much was she inconvenienced by being pregnant? This seems completely reasonable that she can leave to college for half the week. You shouldn't model for children like something that, unless you want them to copy it. Like, so let's say that like your children like copy everything that you do to everybody else and yourself and to your wife, and how your wife treats you and how you treat them, but they don't copy it for other people. What if they just copied it for themselves only? There was a commercial in the 80s, and it was like back when Nancy Reagan was on the Just Say No campaign, and there was a lot of like really good commercial content on like staying away from drugs. I mean, it was really artsy. And so I like it. I like the whole Just Say No. Um, of course, I'm sure this is like they actually said afterwards that telling people to just say no to drugs is like the least effective advice. It turns out that that like that doesn't really work. There was a cop who was explaining it once, and he was like, "You actually have to tell them that the drugs do feel good. They are going to feel good initially, because if you don't tell them that, then they're going to be like, why did you just say no? Like, and everything was bad. You lied. What else did you lie about?" So he said, don't tell them that. He said, tell them that although they initially may feel good, that when they wear off, they feel worse, and then you can feel like permanently not feel as good. Hey, dogs! That you could have issues with feeling good afterwards, and some people get brain damage, and so like although there's a little bit of this, there's a lot of that. And so he said it's better to explain that to them, that there is some things that are going to seem really cool, but like there's some other things that are going to turn you into a slave, and they take away some quality of life. And so that it should be explained. So the just say no really probably is not like what they're saying, even though artistically I love it. It is a statement piece of the 80s. It's like a cultural object. Just say no. Now the commercials that came with Just Say No are outstanding. In one of them, there was a guy. He had like a black, curly, kind of fro looking hairdo. And he he was like going through his son's things, and he had a mustache. He was like a very 80s looking guy. A lot of guys in the 80s had a perm, and it was borderline. The white guys had borderline froze with that kind of like that gel they put in it. Bob Ross, the painter, you need to go check out what I'm about. So this guy had a quasi fro. It was like a short, shiny black perm and a mustache, a little shiny mustache. And he was dressed in like middle class clothes, and he was in his like house or apartment, and it was a little dark. Like it wasn't like the lighting wasn't super bright, so it made it look like he was alone in his house, digging through his this stuff, frantically looking around, and he finds this bag, and it's like a little bag of cocaine. And right as he finds it, the door opens and his son walks in the room, and he looks at his son and he's like, what is this, or something like that. I don't really remember what he said. And the son looks at him and he's like, I learned it from watching you, all right? And like, oh, a lot of people, if you weren't, or if you're not familiar with the commercial, then when people use the joke on you, like, I learned it from watching you, all right, you're just going to think it's like, just like a generic kind of statement, but it's actually a specific kind of generic statement. And so, um, yeah, I learned it from watching you, all right? I was talking about this on the channel just the other day. The number of people who've worked with wild animals successfully for 15 years isn't very common, decades, and then the animal will suddenly turn on them, like, or the nature world turns on them. Okay, crocodile hunter Steve Irwin, 15 years. And then I think it was like 91. Was it 15? 91 to 2006. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. I could have it slightly wrong. And I know where I was when I heard the news, though. I was sitting in an ER with one of my kids, and I heard the paramedics in the hallway talking about it and describing what happened, and they were telling jokes and laughing, which paramedics apparently do. They get all insensitive like that, and they have to joke about death. And they had found something to joke about, and they had actually come up with some kind of stand-up comedy, like an actual joke regarding the way that he died with the stingray in the heart. Which I was sitting in the room just like mutely listening, going like, "Is this like?" I couldn't really vocalize my thoughts in words, but I think that part of what I was feeling might have been like, "What is going on here?" If I was to try to put it in English, I had no idea that paramedics spoke as hardcore as they do, and it's like finding out. I had a boyfriend in high school, and his aunt was coming for a visit. His aunt Sandra, and he said, "I'm really excited for you to meet her, but I want you to know she's a nun." And I feel like because, you're this could make you nervous or uncomfortable, so I want you to know that she tells more dirty jokes than any woman I've ever known. And so it's like these things you find out, life in the big city kid, that nuns tell dirty jokes in private and they like have a sport of it, that paramedics joke about people dying, and about things like the Steve Irwin incident, and that these things go on. I had an aunt who was a nurse, and she would tell stories that she could never get in trouble for, but uh, she would tell stories because back in the day, nurses had to check people's like wash them sometimes and all this other stuff. Like now they have the tasks all deviated, but back in the farm areas of South Dakota, a nurse did a broad variety of tasks. And so she has stories about the male anatomy and the things that she saw. She said one time there was a farmer and she was checking on him, and his dick was so long. She said his schlong reached all the way into the toilet and did one turnaround, and when it hit the bowl, because he needed assistance to keep it out of the water. And she said it was a real thing. His schlong went all the way down. It touched the water, and because he was in the hospital, so she had to walk in to help him. And when she found him, it was swirled once around the toilet inside. You want to know another story she used to like to tell? We'll get this is I'm sure this little rabbit trail will just dovetail right into the topic anyway. Um, so another one was, she said there was a gentleman in the 70s that she was really pretty proud of her hospital. I mean, they had given him a hair transplant. Now, a hospital in South Dakota in the 70s. What had happened, though, she said, is he was scalped. He got into a car accident of a specific type. He'd gone through a fence, and that cross beam in the fence had gone right. It had not given him any kind of brain damage, but it had scraped the layer of flesh and skin off the top of his head, and it was gone. And so they had to take skin from somewhere else. And the doctor said, let's take it from the pubic region. He has a lot of hair and it grows all over the place, and there's some folds and stuff. They took it, they stretched it out, sewed it on. The man was just fine. And but they lived in a small town, and she said every time she'd see him at the store, everybody else thought he'd gotten a perm, but she knew exactly what that was. That was pubic hair on top of his head. And she said she would never say anything to him out loud, but she said that she would just look at the top of his head, and in her head silently note that that was all pubic hair up there. And then they were quite proud. The hospital, the doctor, everybody was really proud. And so, yep. So, anyways, so nurses, these guys, that guy. So, Steve Irwin, he got like a stingray, got him in the heart. And I guess his friends pulled it out, and that made his heart just go faster. And it had been 15 years. I think it's Siegfried and Roy. I think it was Roy. They worked with those Bengal tigers on stage in Las Vegas. And one day, one of them just picked him up like a rag doll and took him off stage. And it took over 5 years of physical therapy. Um, there's a lady who worked with orcas in the 2000s, and she would do shows. And in front of a live show at SeaWorld, an orca pulled her under the water and gave her enough blunt force trauma that she drowned. The orca killed her. Um, I know there's some people work with lions and bears and stuff that would put up a lot of videos up, bonding and having a great time. Usually these things can even last up to 3 decades sometimes, but 1 to 2 decades seems to be the standard for most people. Like 70% of people will have a fatal incident between the 1 and 2 decade mark. So whenever I watch these YouTube videos and these TikTok videos, like there's this one that YouTube keeps suggesting with this guy who's got like this really pleasant, like light brown chestnut skin with blonde hair, and he's out there with all these like hyenas and tigers and shit, and you watch it, and I know a lot of people are like, wow, look at how the animals are so peaceful, and it's like, yeah, right now. And oh, look, he's been putting these up for 5 years and doing this crazy shit and nothing's happened. Yeah, right now. Statistically, he's got a 70% chance from my empirical data gathering, which is of course not a perfect science, that between the 10 and 20-year mark, some kind of wild animal somewhere, it might not even be the ones he works with, is going to lose it on him. Then he's got another 20% that'll happen between the 20 and the 30-year mark. So let's see. It's not when he's going to get attacked. It's not if. It's mostly when. Mostly when. So just because you think you've got you have a wild animal, and you're so good at handling and you're so good at taming, you know. Some handlers, they think they're such good handlers. They're like, oh, I'm such an expert. Oh, please. Half the husbands and wives on it. Well, no, about the fifth of the people on this planet knowingly handle the people in their family. That's why sometimes when I start my videos, first I say, have you had your coffee this morning? Well, all of you are answering. Was it good? Did you? Well, you don't even have to say, was it good? Did you enjoy it? What were some of the perks? Did you have any deficits, any drawbacks? Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, how's your family? Are they nothing but trouble? Are they falling right in line? I'm down at 4 people and 1 thumbs up. The reason why I ask is because about 1 out of 5 of you, I mean, who knows the real reason I ask? I mean, asking's for schemers. But like knowing the reasons why I ask is a schemer thing, and I'm not a schemer. Harvey. Anyways, so who's zooming who made who? Steve Irwin and the crew. What you do? What's a girl gonna do? What's a girl gonna do? Girls gotta do what a girl's gotta do. So 1 out of 5 is always scheming and handling. They're handling their family. They're handling their employees. If you're listening to this right now, there's 4 people watching. A minute ago, there was 5. There's a chance that one of you listening, the chances a minute ago that one of you listening was an actually legitimately Yale baby study born schemer from birth. We're almost like in the 99th percentile, I'm sure, because 1 out of 5. I always say this, but Andrew Bustamante, CIA book author, co-authored a book on the CIA training and what they got out of how they were trained to think and how they've applied that thinking to other things and other modules and what they've some of the things they've learned and whatnot. And one of the things he brings up in his book and in his YouTube videos consistently, almost right off the bat, is that the CIA, the first thing they teach you in spy school is that 1 out of 5 people is just how I just said. If separated from consequence, social status, and loss of image, you don't want to know what they do to you. Think of it this way. I like to put it this way. Think of sheep and then shepherding dogs. Shepherding dogs can be left around sheep all day long. They even keep the sheep safe, right? So like you have like people in that 20%, that Pareto 20%, 80 to 20 factor that's present in economics and nature as an interspecies evolutionary construct, most likely to drive survival of the fittest and all that. So like if you wanted to mitigate or I just had a sudden thought. Do you guys ever have that happen where you're sitting there thinking, this bird shows up, tweet, 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 and the first thing I'm thinking of is my Uncle Gary. Out of nowhere. Bird, I do speak animal. Why? Why, bird, why? Blame it on the rain, yeah, yeah. Because the bird don't mind. So, well, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I'm just like sitting around and I see a group of birds, I say, hey guys, I know you can hear me in your head. I'm going to just give you a gist. I go, there's several people that I want spied on. I don't really say it in English. I show them the regions and then I give them an idea of the intent with enough mystery left involved in it for them to come up with creativity ways. And I tell them psychically, I say, I want you to spy on these people for me. And when you catch wind of anything of this type or that type, come let me know. And in my imagination station, apparently, sometimes they might actually listen. I have a dentist appointment and a shower ahead of me, but I still have some time. I've got to get in the shower at approximately 3 people are watching. 1 thumbs up. So think of these people as like the herding dogs. So if you had sheep, a herding dog actually keeps the sheep safe in a lot of ways. And so when you think of like policemen, doctors, nurses, teachers, they're all over the place, right? And the thing is they do, but what happens? A herding dog gets what? They get a cut of the meat. Now, if you are a sheep and you're roaming the South 40, you find yourself out upon the South 40 someday. You've been a trollop rolling off the old turnip truck. You ended up roaming the South 40, and a dog of a herding breed finds you upon that highway, but there is no shepherd. This dog does not have a place or an image in the pack to protect. See, because the dogs, they know they're getting a cut every day. They don't have to go attack a sheep. They got the self-control, right? But like you run into this dog on the highway, and then it's in like the Jim Morrison man. I think I killed a man. Where? out in the desert. Must have been, right? Like some weird shit like that. Like, don't be finding yourself out on the road as a sheep. If you find a dog, a shepherding dog, and that shepherding dog is not bound by a oath, and its image is not going to be its image, and its place in the pack is it's not tied into a pack where its place and its image is going to suffer in such a way that it will suffer harm. You got just a lone herding dog out there, and what kind of trouble are you in? Now you wonder why our society has a hierarchy. Because herding dogs, humans that are herding dogs, they have a set of natural buttons, pulleys, and push systems that they operate by if you're willing to understand it. One person with one thumbs up. That system is having a good reputation and a good place within their group and getting a good piece of the cut. If they've got their reputation, their place, and their cut, they are all right. Most of them can be like hold up your modern medicine field, hold up your philanthropic fields, hold up your structures in college, hold up your structures in business, hold up your medical institutions. So, I mean, a lot of your public works are driven by these people, just so you know. It's 1 out of 5. And the Yale baby study says they're born like that. And the book seems to suggest, reading it, that they're like that their whole lives, that they aren't changing. What does it mean? What does it mean? It just means, like, if you're listening and you're one of those, because that's who I was trying to talk to. And I was like, if there is some of those, then you have to know that you are working with wild animals. And like Steve Irwin or anyone else, go look up the statistics on the lifespan of narcissists, because people who fit those traits, supposedly, including the Hollywood elite with all of their advanced medical shit, have lifespans that are less than the average person. Keep that in mind. Well, part of it could be, when I read the Yale baby study, it turns out that bullies don't like to bully bullies. They, in general, the babies that test as being that 20%, they do not like to see a bully get bullied. And they're able to discern at 3 to 6 months old without having ever been abused, using puppet shows. And Karen Wynn, you can look it up. And it's also, there's a YouTube video on 60 Minutes. Do babies unlock the keys to morality? So let me grab this. Put this guy over here. Hold on one second. I have to put a small creature back inside. Except for 95% of them only like to bully bullies. 5% of them are okay with bullying anyone they feel should be bullied. That's also like a caveat. So think of that, some of your own numbers that are the most dangerous, 5% of them all the time, 1 out of 20 of the 20. So the 1 out of 5, out of the 1 out of 5, out of their numbers, out of every 100, 5 of them would turn on their own so viciously if they saw that other dog. If both dogs saw each other out on the highway, you wouldn't want to know what that other dog would do to that other dog when that other dog did not see it coming. That is also in the Yale Baby Study. And they don't see it coming because the majority of them would never do that. And those other ones probably learn how to cover it up when they're growing up. So sometimes you wonder, because you hear like, oh, okay. You hear about like Diddy and Epstein and all this shit. But then you look and you're like, Night Stalker, Manson, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Eileen Wuornos. What's the deal there? What's the deal there? I got 0 viewers and 1 thumbs up. Because probably your main Hollywood elite are part of most of them are probably in the 1 out of 5 for sure. And these other guys who get made an example of are people who landed in the possibly including Diddy and Epstein. Possibly. I'm not saying that they were no angels and perfect. I'm just saying that they might have like crossed some business lines, you know what I mean? Tried to serve rat at a feast or something. I don't know what they did. But I a recent House of the Dragon episode. Season 3, episode 4. No, it's episode 2. Thank you, Bird. This one was telling me, you got the episode wrong, but that's not why I came here. What is it? Why are we talking of family again? And why? Okay. I heard rumor on the street that there was things going on over there, though. I will tell you only in my head. I found it highly disturbing. What, are you trying to talk to me about other people? Or just sticking to the subject? Or having a conversation with the bird? Yes. Do you have more? Why don't you come closer? So people could hear you. Come closer. I'm going to ignore you if you don't come closer, little bird. I'll just talk right over you. Okay, so back to the topic for my YouTube video. I gotta get in the shower. Man. Pareto factor. Oh, I think the reason why they made such an example out of people like Manson is because I don't think he killed. First of all, I'm not one of those people who thinks that he killed Sharon Tate. Absolutely not. I'll nestle this little nugget right here in the middle of the video. I did a little research on it. There's a few things. The first thing is that usually when a woman is killed, especially if she's killed when she's pregnant, like think Laci Peterson, the first person and the first suspect is always the husband. Whoever their lover, the father of the child, whoever, if they've been dating multiple people, every person they've had sex with in the last like 5 years is the immediate suspect. So for Sharon Tate, like her husband and then anyone else she's been dating or been with in the last essentially like immediate period of time are the first immediate suspects. That's just normal investigation. Now, I read, and it's public knowledge, that when the investigators went through their house, what they found is that Roman Polanski had a series of sex tapes of Sharon Tate in which they were like extremely violent and exploitative and abusive, and that these were never brought up nor entered into court, but that in a judicious proceeding, they would have been entered in as evidence and he would have been considered the prime suspect, him and whoever his cohorts were, according to the videos, but they wouldn't allow them to even be spoken about. Then what I heard is that Charles Manson was it's a known thing that the government tested on him and that he would go to government buildings. This is not a secret, like that you can just go look it up. Everybody thinks, like most people think he was an MK Ultra, but there's evidence that he would go to these different government buildings and he was involved in stuff. Also, he was friends with the Beach Boys and he wrote one of their songs, and that's public knowledge. Also, he was so popular in the Hollywood crew that Eric Clapton bought him a motorcycle. And some of your musicians that you consider to be the greatest of the eras said that Manson could come up with a new hit when they would just jam together like every fucking few seconds. So you don't know how much of the music you listen to is Manson's. It just doesn't have the credits. That's another thing that occurred to me. And so he does have a record you can go listen to if you want. But why did he get blamed? I think personally it's because he says it in his interviews. So money in those circles is a euphemism. Money and gold is a euphemism for human trafficking. And so David Graeber in the book Debt the First 5,000 Years explains that all commodity and coined money is actually like the word is euphemism for human trafficking and slavery and military industrial complexes. And so what Manson, he gave himself up, right? He says, like, he basically gives away why he's in the prison. He's in the 20%, but he's in the 5% of the 20%. People say he could there was this other movie star guy who went to prison, and he said he loved being in the same room with Manson because Manson had snake charming abilities and he could get everybody in the room high without any drugs involved. He could just change their whole mood and they would all just be like, woo, higher than shit. And so, like, then you can see why all these other famous people hung out with him. But he says in the interview, they're like, well, why you're here? And he's like, it was in an interview. I don't know if they asked him right that second, why are you here? But that's just kind of how I took it. I'd have to go listen to the context. But he said it was because he had $1 million given to him. So remember what I said, money's a euphemism. And he let it slip through his hands like 3 times, let the whole entire thing slip through his hands. He just wasn't willing to do. He wasn't really a human trafficker. He had his issues, but he wasn't really involved in that. And so he was like that dog that other dog meets on the road. And so they had to put him up on a public, thing.